Welcome to the Sacred and Sassy Soulpreneur podcast, where we spill the mystic tea and have those conversations about running a spiritual business that no one is saying out loud. I'm your host, Kerry Waring, who, after more than 25 years of running my own business as a psychic medium soul coach, is tired of seeing spiritual women show up, serve, and not make the income they deserve. Your spiritual gifts are meant to change lives, including yours. And today I'm talking with Faith Christiansen, who is a best-selling author in small business and entrepreneurship, speaker and founder of the Business Builders Society. She works with soulpreneurs and small businesses to build businesses that are simple, adaptable, and built to last through tech and platform changes. Rather than chasing algorithms or the latest marketing trend, Faith focuses on creating own business assets, relationship-first sales systems, and practical workflows that helps entrepreneurs generate profits with less complexity. Her mission is to help business owners create businesses that give them more income, more freedom, and more control over their future. And I love all of that, Faith. So welcome.
Thank you so much. Excited to be here and help your audience. We're here to serve, right?
Yes, we are. So your work with entrepreneurs on keeping things simple and built to last. What's the personal experience that taught you that simplicity was the answer rather than complexity?
So one of the things, like, we've all been through the courses and been through the gurus where they've given us a list, and it's a 60-point list that if we just followed it exactly, we would be a millionaire in approximately never, right? We've all been through those lists.
Yeah.
And the more that I learnt and the more that I engaged with those lists, the more of it I realized was just a bunch of fluff to keep us paying. And here's the thing. The simpler that it is to execute, the more likely you are to execute. And when you actually execute and can continue to execute because you're not overwhelmed with a 60-point list, guess what happens? You get results. And I learned that after going through all of these courses, there are key things that work no matter what platform that you're on, no matter what system that you have. And when you focus on those key income producing activities, you get to have a business that is simple, that can scale, where you own the assets so you're no longer platform dependent. And I have learned this through burning out numerous times. And I can't tell you how many times I burnt out, even as a funnel builder who knew how to build systems quicker than the average Joe. I still burnt out trying to create something new every single month and doing all the crap that goes with creating something new.
And burnout is such like a common experience. I know I've been there plenty of times, and I know for myself that I'll feel exhausted or burn out when I'm actually too focused on the wrong aspects of my marketing or doing something that takes me away from what is in alignment.
Correct. Exactly.
Yeah, so I know that that's a common thing for soulpreneurs, the burnout. So what would you say if someone is feeling like that right now, where could they start to sort of realign themselves?
So if you look at the very basics mechanics of what sells, right, and the basic mechanics of marketing, you just need two things. You need a piece of content so people can understand you, your story, your mission, why you're different, and what you do, right? But at the end of the day, I see people and they're putting out millions of pieces of content. And if you love doing content, more power to you. I'm not that person. And the large majority of people I meet, they're not the people who started a business to be content creators, right? But they are people who can have a conversation with a human. The problem that comes when people say to me, I'm an introvert, I don't like, that conversation's part of it and cold outreach. What I'll say to them is, you're doing it wrong, right? when you know, as a person with integrity, when you know that the only reason you're outreaching to someone is to try and pitch slap them, right, and to sell them something, your internal clock goes, oh, no, and you won't do it. Or you'll do it and you will hate it for every minute of the day. But when you're reaching out and you're genuinely starting conversations with people and you're like, oh my God, I love your philosophy on this. And oh, Kerry, you've taught me to actually step into my intuition because I had no fucking clue. I was following all the guru's advice, right? Now you stand out. So when you do post a piece of content, you do have some reciprocity sitting there that they know you and they like you and they trust you. And at the end of the day, when we're connecting with people, the big mistake that people make online in their business is they're trying to connect with their client, right? And that's awesome. You want to connect with your client, but you want to connect with a client that not only could be a client, but has a list of clients. Because now you have the potential of collaborating with them and you can refer each other. Like, how much easier would it be in your business and in marketing, Kerry, if you woke up and you knew that you had 52 people that were referring you to people every day or referring people to you as they met them online? Would that just help in your marketing?
Oh, so much easier. And especially if they're women in business, because sometimes for a soulpreneur, especially like a psychic or a medium, we are someone's best kept secret sometimes.
Right? And the problem becomes, like, I know you said to me before we started this, I hate cold outreach.
Yes, that's
and
right.
You hate cold outreach in the way that we've been taught to do it, which is pitch slap them on message 1 to 10, right? Yep. Somewhere in message 1 to 10, we were told to pitch slap them. But what if you were focused on building the relationship? Because here's the thing, that person who we think is our perfect client, they may never be our client, right? For whatever reason, but they may refer us to people. So I have a person on Instagram, she needs me like crazy. Her systems are all over the place, right? But I know that she's not at a place where she's ready to do it. So I don't push. I've never sold to her. She sees my content, she engages, she's purchased a couple of things. I've never pitch slapped her, but she has referred me for clients that ended up in high ticket, right? So it's a case of when you go in and your intention, and this is something that Ed Milet talked about all the time, is we don't give ourselves credit for our intentions, right? And when us as soulpreneurs, I don't know about you, but for me, when we go in and our intention is to pitch, slap, and sell someone, we struggle. But when we go in and our intention is to collaborate, and how can we help them win? And you know, when we help them win, they'll help us win at some point in the relationship. If not, they might find an opportunity. Like you were saying, you're the best kept secret. There are also events where they're the best kept secret, right? But that person knows that person who runs that event and they refer you, and suddenly you're linked into a whole new audience. And this is something that will outlast AI as well, is the connection and the network part of it, because that is the part that AI cannot replicate.
True, 100% true. And I'm sitting here thinking what keeps coming in my mind, and I don't know if this is one of your offers or not, but like, because I know we've spoken about you in the past pivoting and, you know, creating new offers. But seriously, if you could create something that would help people do that kind of outreach, because it's truly needed, like the collaboration, why do you think bundles are working and summits are working so well at the minute? You know, like, and just helping people overcome those initial hesitations and gaining the confidence and stepping into their self-authority with it. Like that would be massive. And I know, like, one of your messages is that there is not one way to hit our goals, and it's not as serious as the gurus make it. So that is a bit of a controversial thing to say in a world full of people selling the system, right?
Right.
So what broke that belief for you personally?
Okay, so even if you just go and look at people's systems, right? Let's look at the top 20, top 30, top 50, anyone who's made six figures. First of all, if you ask them how they got there, they're going to tell you it was a system. But realistically, the honest ones will tell you they have no fucking clue. They literally just experimented and then something worked and they kept doing it, right? But here's the thing. A lot of people that I meet that aren't hitting their goals in some way, find something that works, but then listen to a guru, flip the thing that's working, and it stops working. Right? Because a lot of these people are saying their way is the only way or it's the better way. It might be the better way for them, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's the better way for you. And at the end of the day, if you look at someone like Ed Mylett, John Maxwell, Tony Robbins, they experimented their way to the top, right? But what sells is saying that it was a system, but that's not what actually got them there. And a lot of the time, people are telling us, just do these 5 steps. And those 5 steps are not the steps that they actually took that got them where they were. And in this guru, have to do this, have to have a system stuff, we lose our inner voice and we will often be taught to just keep pushing, you know? Like for me, I was taught I have to go and do shorts. If you're not doing a short, you're leaving business on the table and you're like blah, blah, blah. There are people on Substack right now and all they do is write, and that is making them hundreds of $1,000s a month, right? So this is where we start to look at, first of all, do you actually want to do it? Because I have been pushing myself for something like 5+ years to do short video, and I freaking hate every second of it. And I am better to get on a podcast interview with someone like you and just let it flow from my head. I know you're the same, right? But if I was to listen to the shorts gurus and the Instagram gurus, I would just quit my business because I would be a failure. Like, they make business so serious. But if you think about it, the people who are selling us the systems and making business so serious, and the ones that are blaming us when their system fails us, there is a million ways to do it, and we do not have to do something that's out of alignment with who we are.
100%. And
right?
yeah, exactly. But it's discovering what is in alignment. That is the challenge, right? In a way that does feed not just your business but your soul, right?
Correct.
Because
and the way that we find that alignment, if you think about it, what's the one way that we find that alignment? We test stuff, right? Whether we test it for 30 days or we test it for 90 days, because sometimes things need time to get traction, right? Like, you're probably not going to get on social media and in the first 30 days you're going to blow up. I mean, you might if you know content and you're good at it, right? But the large majority of us, it won't happen. But what we can do is we can experiment for a certain number of repetitions. So for instance, you will know this because you saw me do it. I decided I wanted to take my YouTube videos and increase retention in my YouTube videos. Now, just posting them on a set time and a set day wasn't working. My average view time was 2 to 3 minutes, right? So I decided I'm going to premiere my YouTube videos every week at a certain time. And I'm going to, every time someone, like my CTA on everything across every platform, will see you live on Tuesday at 1 p.m. And people started to show up. Now, did I increase my retention? Absolutely. I went from like 2 to 3 minutes to 8 to 10 minutes, right? Did I like doing it? No, because on the back end, I had to spend 4 hours freaking editing a YouTube video.
Yes.
I hated it. So what did I do? Quit. Oh my God, I quit. But I did it for a minimum of 30 days, which was 4 repetitions, what I classed as a real test to give me. And I see if I like it. I fucking hated it. So I quit. And now I find a new path.
And that's the whole thing. I think I know for me, if I look at just the stats and the data too much, I get in my head instead of in my soul. And one major indicator for me is whether I can sustain it or not, is whether I feel good about it. And that has actually got a bit harder with the more constrictions around social media as they've grown to what they are now. And I know we've just spoken about how half the time you feel like you're out in a void, you know. So in that instance, it's really got to come back to what can you do to enjoy it, you know? And for me, that's lining up with things like Substack and doing this podcast and being able to have a conversation with people like you and developing those kind of relationships, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's where you find your joy.
Exactly.
And the other thing is, like, understanding the era that we live in, right? Like, we were talking about it beforehand. Okay, we love to write. I'm a writer too. That's why Substack works for us. Facebook worked for us because we could do long form posts with just a picture, right? But we also need to understand the era that we're moving into, and that's an AI era. And unfortunately, trust is at an all-time low as a result of AI. So when we just write, can it work? Absolutely. But people will assume it's written by AI even when we wrote it ourselves. And this is where we understand the industry and the era that we're going into. And we understand that using our voice, like you on podcasting and me on podcasting, or doing live trainings or doing these kind of interviews, now people can see the real person. And that's where we beat the AI, right? And that's the way, like, okay, you can do a reel on Instagram, but everybody's going to be looking to see if it's an AI avatar. Like, they're going to pick it apart. And even if it's you, you're going to be justifying picking it apart. But when you go live or you do a podcast interview or whatever, YouTube video, whatever, and you're long form, it's a lot harder to hide. And that has the highest trust. But it can be scary for people, and that's where we got to test it, right? Okay, in the beginning, we're going to suck so bad sometimes, right? You probably did as well. But we get better if we practice it, if it's fun.
And I think also too, for me, I think also these days, just showing up and being imperfectly perfect, right? Being authentic, which is why, you know, I don't have a pre-recorded introduction to the podcast, you know, just being able to just show up and present yourself and get into it and have a real conversation.
Real.
And even with your videos, you don't have to have all the tech and everything to make it perfect. I think these days, especially after COVID, people are just appreciating that kind of thing even more.
Exactly. And the more imperfect you are, the less likely they are to pull it apart thinking it's AI.
Yeah.
Because, you know, like, if you look at it, the last couple of days, I gave up on Instagram like about a month ago, and I haven't posted that much. And then the last couple of days, I was rambling about Google Workspace and how bad it was to get out of it. And I was rambling about the fact that my cat, who was sitting next to me yelling to go outside, those videos got like 1,000 freaking views on them. And I'm usually in 200 view jail. Now, if that is not an example of being imperfect, I don't know what is. But that's what people are looking for now, because AI is so perfect. And I think that all of these gurus, people are starting to see through them, which is why the trust era is so bad, right? Like, that's why the trust recession has happened, is because people have been so burned. And you're right, being imperfect is exactly the reason that we are actually going to succeed, because that's what people are looking for. They're not looking for the gurus anymore.
That's it. And you talk about owning your business assets so that you're not trapped in any one platform or software. So for a soulpreneur who has built their entire audience on Instagram or Facebook, what does that actually mean practically, and why does it matter so urgently right now?
I think that social media is changing, And I think that every time we build something and we create something, we are making ourselves platform reliant. But when we own the asset, meaning I can go to Claude, I can create a landing page, I can write all my words on that landing page. But if I've built it inside of Systeme, Kajabi, Go High Level, all of that, if I want to move when they put up their prices or change their platform, I can't do that. However, now we have the ability to go to Claude and get Claude to write the same sales page, but in a HTML format, for instance, right? Which now means we're not platform reliant. We can move that asset anywhere we want to. And I think that's where we're starting to be able to get control back. Because before, and I don't know about you, but I've stayed on platforms way too long because I was trying to save myself having to rebuild it all, right? But when we have the ability to go, you know what? I don't like what you're doing. I don't like the pricing. I don't like the ethics behind the person. I'm just going to literally take my little HTML file and go to DreamHost or, go to some other platform that's cheaper. Now we have control of our business. And now we have asset control.
Yeah, and especially like with the likes of Meta, where you might have all these followers, you might have all these people interested in your work, but you have no control over when they hear something from you, like are you even going to show up in their feed? Like it's just so restricting.
Are you going to be shut down tomorrow? I literally just saw an ad this morning from someone who was advertising on Instagram who actually had their Instagram account shut down for no reason.
Yeah.
So this is where we start to look at platforms where you have asset control. And that's why you and I like Substack, because when someone subscribes to us, we get their email address.
Yep.
But if we have, we have people going to school, for instance, right? If they don't sign up, we have no way to track them. We have no way to retarget them, right? But if I get them to go to my sales page, which at the moment is on Systeme, has been for years because it's inexpensive, I now can put a Facebook pixel, Google pixel, whatever. I can retarget them if I choose to. I don't because I hate doing it, but you have the ability to do it. And this is where we start looking at how can we own the audience, because on social media, we're renting it. And we're renting it for an indiscriminate amount of time. And out of the blue, with all the AI crap that they've got now filtering content and filtering comments, you could be shut down. You never did anything wrong.
Yeah.
And when you didn't do anything wrong, you can't appeal it because you're dealing with an AI to appeal it. And that's it. You're done. But like your cactus. And we have to remember that with all of these platforms we are on, we're renting space. And the amazing thing about AI, like Claude, for instance, right? I can go to Claude and I can feed email addresses that I have been given. Claude can put it into a CSV file. I can take my file from Systeme, put it in Claude. Now I have a CSV file. If I decide I don't want to do Systeme, I don't want to do school, I don't want to do Substack, whatever, I have one CSV file with all my contacts on it, and I can start again if I needed to, right?
Yeah.
But if you don't own your assets and take control of it, you're at the mercy of every platform and their algorithm changes. And as we saw with school recently, that is a big risk to be in.
Yeah, so I know for me, I've recently moved to Substack for a lot of my content creation. And because to me it does, one, it feels nervous system friendly.
Yes.
But two, because you do get access to the emails for people that subscribe to you, it does feel more like a bit of an owned asset than a social platform in that way. But from a business strategy perspective, what other platforms or tools would you say are safer bets for soulpreneurs than others?
So I would have some form of AI. Like I use Claude because Claude is very good for business assets, right? So I have Claude can go into my System A. It can pull all my contacts out and put it into a CSV file because System A has a connection with Claude, right? You can take all of your email addresses, all your sales pages. So Claude is like my backup. But having said that, you need to program AI well. A lot of people are using AI very generically, and that's the problem that they have. But when I have a project that has custom level instructions, that has knowledge files, that has a skill, that understands me, because again, it has knowledge files on my business, my content, my voice style, etc. And now I have a programmed asset. And that is something like, even if you didn't have a sales funnel, right? And you weren't someone who wanted to do emailing, because let's just be honest, everybody tells us that our email list is a safe bet. But have you looked at email open rates lately? Because people are so over being emailed about everything, right?
100%.
You can yeah, exactly. So you can literally go to Claude, connect it to Stripe, go to Claude. I want to create a payment link for $997. This is the information about it. It's go to Stripe, create the link, and it will link straight with Stripe. And it'll create a payment link page. You give that to people. You don't even need sales pages in some cases these days if it's for a warm or hot market, right? So that's what I would say. And then I also have ChatGPT because it does a really good job, if programmed correctly, again, at making images. Right? Some of the images that come out of ChatGPT, you can clearly see it comes out of ChatGPT because they're generic images, or they're letting the model control the way it makes it and not taking control of the model and programming it correctly. But at the end of the day, if I lost System A, Claude has me, right? Because I've been downloading assets and I've now backed up my assets, whether it's on Google Drive or hard drives, depending on how skeptical you are. But again, you have all your assets and you have control of what you want to do, because tomorrow Substack could change. Like, that's just the honest truth. We don't own the platform. It's not our millions of dollars creating it, right? But we need to, one, have acceptance that platforms change. That was the big one for me with school, because I was so freaking angry at school and how they changed their platform. And I had to come to a place of acceptance. It's Meta's platform. It's TikTok, YouTube, school, Substack. It's their platform, their rules. The only way we can get around it is if we own something. But I'm not creating an app right now. That's not the headspace I have. But owning assets and accepting that, you know what, at some point we may have to pivot because it no longer works for us. But that's cool because we got X amount of assets while we were there, and then we just move on without, a lot of people will stay on Meta for like years, even though it's not working for them, even though they don't get the assets that they want, because I've invested so much time into this, right? We've all been there. Like, I invested so many years into Instagram when I should have just been like, okay, cool, I have the videos. If I need to, I can put them on Instagram. I can put them on Substack or LinkedIn or whatever, and not had such strong, commitment to a platform that we don't own.
Yeah. And I know for me, like, if I could step off Facebook, I probably would. But I feel it's not so much that I've invested so much time. It's more like you still have your relationships that you've built, your friends, like your clients from over the years. And I just don't feel like I can just completely step away.
And you don't have to, because with the help of something like Claude, you might create a Facebook post, right? Run it through Claude, and you have a skill created that understands how Substack works and all the little nuances that Substack needs. And it then can take that Facebook post and turn it into a Substack article that you obviously edit, because you don't put AI driven 100% on anything. Yeah. But you have a platform now where you can repurpose content. And I think that's something, like, I used to always teach just be on one platform, but I think there's power in, like, understanding you don't own the platform and then having the ability to repurpose it. So you could take a Reels transcript and make it into a note on Substack as an example, right? So having the ability with the help of AI on the best practices for that platform, because I have a project that's called Substack that has Substack's rules, right? Like their terms and conditions. So AI can just make sure I'm not doing the wrong thing, hopefully, right? Then I have all the little nuance, the growth tips, the things that Substack needs, all at the project level. So when I take a Facebook post, I go into that project and I post that thing, or I just voice stuff. There's a lot of times I'm like blah 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 blah, and it will take it and it will format it for Substack's best practices. And that's where, like, I don't know, if you only have the headspace to be on one, then just be on one. But if you have the headspace and the skills, as in Claude skills, ChatGPT skills, whatever, then why not repurpose if it's only going to take you a couple of extra minutes? And everybody, lead them, I do say lead them back to a platform where you can own the assets, which for us is Substack, because we can own it. So we might be putting the content on there, but our goal is to try and at least get them over to a platform that we can control.
Yep. And let's talk relationships, because you say that relationships outlast platforms. And I believe this deeply from my own experience, to be honest, because I know, like, my people from Facebook they followed me to school, for example.
Yep.
But most business coaching tells you to scale, automate, and funnel. How do you reconcile relationship first selling with the pressure to grow?
So here's the thing. A lot of people are focused on more followers, more this, more that, right? But you can have more. And if you don't have a relationship with any of those people, they're not going to follow you and they're not going to probably buy from you, right? So there's an article that was put out a while ago called 1,000 True Fans. And that's our goal is, okay, we do want more people coming into our ecosystems, right? That's just the truth, we do. But we want to balance more with relationships, because if people don't know us, like us, and trust us, they're not referring us and they're not buying from us. So we need to learn how to build the relationships. And like what we were talking about earlier, I'm not talking about build the relationship with a pitch slap. If you pitch slap me, you've burnt a bridge. I will block you. I am not engaging. Like, I had someone on Instagram yesterday. I'm like, for reals, buddy? For reals? But if you come and you follow me, I now add you to a list, because I have a brain that forgets, right? So I have a piece of software that I've created where I can add you and put notes to remember things about you, right? So then I go back and I engage with you and I build a relationship with you, because there's no point in having 100 followers and only one person you've ever interacted with who knows who you are. Why not build depth at the same time as width? Because without the reason those people followed you is because they knew you, they liked you, and they trusted you, and they wanted to hear your message on whatever platform that you went to, right? They're the people who look for you. But imagine if you never built those relationships and you had 10,000 followers. My best is less than 1% would follow you, because that's what I've seen as an industry standard. Less than 1% would follow you to a new platform. So knowing that our platforms could be taken away from us at any time, what's the point of building width with no depth?
Yeah, 100% I agree. And because I'm certainly thinking about the time that I changed email providers and needed to, I think they had to double confirm, double opt in.
Yep.
And most of them didn't.
And you know what? So I had a client that had something in the vicinity of 13,000 plus followers, right? And she thought she was safe because she had a 10,000 email database. And when Instagram got hacked and her Facebook and everything was lost and she had to start again, only 300 people followed her.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. 300 people was a great place to start. But imagine if she'd built depth. Instead of focusing on posting more content, right? What if she'd focused on building depth with a few more of those 10,000 people?
Yeah, exactly. And just even just checking in and saying, how you going? You know.
And just sometimes it might be engaging on their story,
Yeah.
engaging in their post, right? Even like what I do commonly is I'll go to someone's profile, I'll go to one of their posts I can resonate with and be honest about, right? And I will click the share button and send it to them and make a comment on it because it's gone into their inbox. It's a genuine conversation started. And if I had just started a conversation about their post, a lot of them don't even remember what they posted. I learned that. But if I send them their post and then start a conversation with them, whether it's appreciation or a question or, you know, some way that I can genuinely engage with them, they appreciate that.
Yeah.
And that's a generic, genuine way to start a conversation with someone because you're starting it about them and not about you.
Yeah. So leading ourselves on the hard days is one of the things that's important to you. And I think that's where a lot of soulpreneurs do fall apart, to be honest. So what does self-leadership actually look like when the business feels like it's not working and the doubt is loud?
So, and this is where we sit down. Like everyone talks about a why, right? We've all heard it a million times. You got to have a why. But if you don't have an emotional why, as in something you can watch, like we've seen the vision boards, for example, right? So, one of the things that I tell my clients to create is a mind movie. And the amazing thing about AI is we can give it a photo of ourselves and we can create a scene that looks like us in the future, right? And now we can
Ooh.
put a bunch of them together. We can go to Suno, write an emotionally compelling song that's emotionally compelling to us, right? Put all those little clips on the song. When you're having a bad day where you don't want to sit and talk to people on social media, play your damn song, right? Watch why you're doing it. Watch, emotionally connect to why you're doing it. Because just having a vision board, it's a bunch of pictures on a wall I don't fucking care about. Honestly, I don't. And they never worked for me. And I could not affirmation myself out of hell. Like I couldn't. I'm rich. No, you're not, bitch. You're broke as a joke. You know, like my brain is the
Yeah.
biggest hater, right? Honestly. And that's something that I've had to work with. But having a mind movie where I'm like, at the end of the movie, hello, I'm going back to work. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then having simple systems like 60-second systems to shift your energy. And quite often when you're sitting in a desk all day and you're doing stuff that quite often we're doing stuff to keep us busy. We know it doesn't make a difference in our business, but it is more comfortable than having to talk to people or show up on camera or practice showing up on camera if we suck at it, right? But if we have systems, and for me, one of the biggest systems for me personally is music. I need a song that reminds me why I'm connected to people, right? I need a song that that reminds me I deserve money because I'm the person that just wants to help everybody and I hate charge. So I need a song to remind me that I'm worth the money and to charge it, right? So like what is it for you that for 60 seconds you can do it? Like there's a somatic dancing, for instance, right, where you have a song that you put on and you just shake everything out, right? Just shake it out. But these are little tiny 60-second practices. I can't sit through a Joe Dispenza meditation to save my life. 20 minutes, I can't sit there. And that's a short one. I just can't do it. I physically can't do it. My brain is off like 60 seconds,
Yep.
3 minutes if I'm lucky. So I had to create little tiny things. And sometimes we have to stack the tiny things, right? Like it might be somatic dance, and then it might be a mind movie, and then it might be something else, like another little practice, because it might take, like if you've had someone come on your post and they've just been a dick, right? Like just being a mean person, it might take a couple of different practices to be able to move through that so that you will keep going, creating content and not quit for a week because one person was mean to you. But I found that if you can energetically hold these challenges and see them as ways to move forward, and you have little systems that you can use to move them forward, you will be astronomically further ahead than the person and the version of you that quits every 5 minutes.
100%. I'm loving the idea of a mind movie. And because I know I'm someone that's always struggled with using a vision board in the normal way, in the usual
Yep.
way. And affirmations for me also are not something that my soul necessarily can truly engage with.
No.
But a mind movie, like literally being able to see yourself in what you vision as your future, I can see how that and feel how that could be really powerful.
And you can do it like in layers too, because you could have all of the little AI clips that show you in those moments. You could have a piece of music underneath it, but you can also have you voicing out what it was like in that moment as if you're already past it, and you're looking back and you have it like it was a movie on your phone. Right. And you spend 10 seconds. I remember like that, because at the end of the day, I think it's Joe Dispenza that talks about wiring it in. Like all of our goals at the end of the day are about an emotion that we want to feel. And if we can feel that emotion before it happens as if it's already done, right? We connect to it and we move the timeline of it coming to us a lot faster. And I think that's where manifestation, like I can't rah-rah myself out of anything. If someone's being mean to me, it's going to take a couple of practices, right? But the quicker that we can pull ourselves out of that emotional state, the further we'll get, because we won't quit on the day when someone's a dick to us when we were just trying to be nice. Right?
Yeah.
Like we won't give up on posting content for a week because someone disagreed with us, as an example. So you can have every system in the world. I can create you an 8-figure sales funnel system. And if you don't show up and run traffic to it, it won't work.
100%. So if someone's listening today as a spiritual business owner who's been following someone else's system and it's not working, what's the one thing they could do differently this week?
Assess it, right? Sit down with a pen and paper and look at it, okay? So if, for instance, you have a podcast and it's not working, assess it. Why isn't it working? Is it a you problem, meaning you think that the podcast is going to do all the work, when in actual fact, it's our job to market our podcast, right? And that means having conversations, putting out clips, whatever, right? Are you doing the work and taking the actions required for that thing to work? And if you are and you genuinely don't love it, what do you love? What could you test? Because it's not that serious. It's not that serious. It's not a failure. It's all wins and learns, wins and learns. And sometimes you'll win and learn at the same time. Other times you'll win. Other times it's just brutal learnings, right? So it's not that serious. So test something else. But make sure that you're giving everything enough time to get traction. Like you can't start a podcast this week, hate running a podcast and quit. Right?
Yeah.
Like when I was reading the book Tiny Experiment, she talks about having a set number of instances that you do it. So for instance, you might run a podcast and put out 20 episodes. But have strategy behind that podcast. Like no point in creating a podcast if you don't have a visibility strategy. Right? I mean, there is. I mean, sometimes, just putting out content is cathartic. Is that what you call it? Where it's just good for the soul that you've gotten it out there. But then don't blame the podcast if it doesn't get visibility, if you wanted it to get visibility. But then just take the pressure off yourself, right? If you have to, and I'm going to say this, people are going to be offended, they're going to scream in the comments, but if you have to go out and get a part-time job to do what you love, then go and get a part-time job, a little pleb job that will just supplement you up so you can take the pressure off your voice and your message and your business. And the other thing I will say is you do not have to charge high ticket prices if you don't have the confidence to charge high ticket prices. Everyone in our industries are told you must have a high ticket offer, but they don't have the confidence to sell a high ticket offer. So you're better to start with something that's a couple of $100, and as you gain the confidence, you increase the price, et cetera, et cetera. That is not a failure. It's just simply learnings, right? So if your offer's not working, is it too complicated? Because some people's offer, I come in and there's 67 videos and I can't even get through 10.
Yeah. And
Right?
and I think you've got to be 100% comfortable with whatever you're doing. So
Your certainty sells.
if you're comfortable at high ticket, great. If you're not, then find that place where you are comfortable, because it's got to work, and it
And you
won't
want
work if you're
exactly
not.
that.
Yeah.
Exactly. And like you believe in the body, right? Like you believe in emotional intuition and stuff like that. So if I say a price tag and you stomach screws up and you hurl, that's not a good price tag. So you want to find the price tag that feels good to you, that's just a little bit of a stretch. So if 500 is like a no-brainer, maybe it's 700, right?
Yeah.
So you're stretching yourself a little bit. The other thing that I'll say is if high ticket's not working for you, break it into smaller amounts, because sometimes we have to account for the fact that society, that, there's economic pressures at the moment. So, you might take a $5,000 offer, pull a chunk of it away and make it $1,000 offer, and then the rest of it's 4,000 or whatever.
And I think that's actually a really important thing at the minute, especially for the soulpreneur, because I think especially if we've been in the industry for a while and the industry's changed and shifted, and people want their educational content in much smaller chunks.
Exactly.
Because they're exhausted, they don't have the time that it may take, the commitment. So they want it in those smaller chunks where they can still have, even if it's just a part of the transformation.
Well, that mini transformations is one of the things I say to my clients is, what are your little milestones? Because it's great to say earn $10,000 as an example, all right, or be fully healed or whatever. But what's a little step? It might be their first $500, or for you, it might be their first moment when someone triggered them and they could sit there and they would just calm.
Yeah.
So what are the mini transformations that we can create? And we can break it into smaller chunks. Like I had a $5,000 offer. I was confident in selling it, no problem, sold it 1,000,000 times. But I found that at the 1,000 point, 1,500 point, I could have an even bigger impact. So I broke that program into 3 chunks, and people walk through the chunks. Like I had a 60% conversion all through the chunks. But by just having the little chunk, people felt it was easier to say yes. And then once they've done little chunk, then they can go to next little chunk and next little chunk. And it's not the pressure, financial, mental, headspace, all of the pressures that come with having to commit to a $5,000 thing.
100%. And where can people find you, and what offer would you like to share with our listeners today?
So my best one is Substack. That's where I'm moving to as well. So find me on Substack, everywhere on social media, YouTube, everything. I'm Boss Faith C. And the thing that I would love people to do is I'm going to be starting up little workshops where we're talking about solving one thing. We're just fixing one thing at a time. And that's where I will be talking about that on Substack. I'm in the process of just chunking down all of that now. I've got to move everything from Google, which is a bit of a process. But that's where, and that's what I would say to people, like, what is the smallest thing that you can do? Because guess what? Then you can ascend people, and it doesn't need 60 million anything. You don't need 60 million videos. You don't need all the course. Like a live training, easy. Replay, easy. And that's just less stressful. So again, experiment, find what you love.
Thank you, Faith. I'm sure there's so many golden nuggets in this conversation. I'm sure people are going to have lots to take away with, and by all means, please go and find Faith on Substack. I know that I'm over there on Faith's Substack, and also she's on Instagram, Facebook as Boss Faith C. So thanks again, Faith.
Welcome. Have an amazing day.